Hello friends, welcome to my lecture on PLC, that is Programmable Logic Controllers. In this lecture I will be discussing the basics of PLC and one example of automatic capping operation. Okay. So let me tell you about PLCs. PLCs are basically digital computer systems used for implementation of functions such as logic, sequencing, timing, counting, etc. It has a memory and internal instructions. Unlike computer, which is used for computation and display, PLC is used to design logic and regulate the task. PLCs are economical compared to the inflexible relay based control systems. Okay, the typical input output uh, systems used in PLCs are like this. Uh, there are 128 input outputs are possible for small PLCs having a memory of 2 kilobytes. Then 2048 input outputs combinations are possible in medium size PLCs having a memory of 32 kilobytes, and 8192 input outputs are possible in large PLCs having a memory of 750 KB. Okay, so this is about the sizes of the PLCs. Now comparing the PLCs to relay based control systems, the relay based control systems have certain disadvantages compared to PLCs, which are like uh, relays are meant for only controlling and not for monitoring, unlike PLCs. Okay, in PLCs we can monitor and control both the processes basically. In relays, programs cannot be written as they are electromechanical switches, whereas PLCs enable programming with different languages. So this is the main advantage of PLC, and that is why it is known as flexible system. Relays are purely analog in nature, whereas PLCs are digital, and the outputs of PLCs are discrete states. So definition, we have uh, said that it's a digital computer designed for multiple analog digital inputs as well as outputs, and it is also immune to other noise factors like temperature, electrical loading and vibrations. PLCs are basically real-time systems. These have advantages over hardwired automation control systems and are therefore flexible and can be customized to requirements with the software. Um, because if you see the relay based systems, they are huge and n number of relays are required, and basically they are electromechanical switches, and there is no programming possible, and manually the settings are to be done, and in case of change of program you need lot of changes in the wiring as well as switches. So coming to architecture, the architecture looks like this. It has a power supply, it has CPU, it has a programming device, memory, input module and output module. Okay, so let us see what is the architecture like. Okay, PLC architecture consists of power supply, CPU, input modules, output modules and programming device. Okay, coming to power supply modules, these are either built-in or external, and the common voltage levels required for PLCs are 24 volts DC, 110 volts AC and 220 volts AC sometimes. Okay, the CPU, this in this module the logic is stored and processed. Okay, so it contains an executive program that tells PLCs how to implement users program, how to execute control functions, how to communicate with other input output devices. The program is stored in the memory. Okay, so that is how the CPU works. uh, Coming to input output modules, the interface of PLCs connects it to the external devices. Okay, it also conditions the signals received and being sent to external devices. The inputs are of logical and continuous type. The application of output signals for higher currents is achieved through use of FETs, because as you know the output signals of PLCs are very small voltages in millivolts, whereas the actuators need high currents for actuation purpose. Okay, so that is why there is some architecture required, and FETs are used for the purpose. In these, the outputs are discrete states. PLCs gives discrete state outputs. The external devices or the actuators are rugged and away from controller and can stand adverse climatic conditions. So that is the salient feature of PLCs. You can have controller in one place and the actuators could be somewhere located in the factory. So that is how the PLCs are controlled. The advantages of these PLCs is elimination of internal relays. Use of array of relays in controlling involves mechanical wear and tear. Also, change of program necessitates changes of wiring. Therefore, PLCs are used where logic is designed or controlled by a software. Once the logic is built in, it is uploaded to the controller and it is error free. So that is the salient feature again of the PLC. You can take a look at the architecture diagram. You have input modules where you have switches which are basically normally open and normally closed. We have different, you can have different switches, analog, which can receive analog and digital signals. Similarly, there are output, in the output module there are again different switches where you receive the signaled conditioned signal from the CPU. Okay, where in the CPU the logic is processed and the signals are conditioned and they are given as a output by the PLCs. Okay, now as mentioned earlier, the voltages of these output signals are very small, so they need conversion to high current. So for that FETs are used, and there are some more control architectures available which convert the smaller signals into higher currents which are required to actuate the actuators. So in the output side you will see the loads which are basically the outputs. Discrete state outputs are motor, solenoid, lamp, LED, speaker and buzzer. So these are the possible outputs from the PLCs. So this is how the architecture works. Now coming to introduction, as mentioned earlier, PLCs replace sequential relay control. It has three modules, namely inputs, outputs and logic control unit. The logic unit is controlled by a software in this case. So basically three functions: sensing, logic, designing and controlling. So these are three functions done by the PLCs. Okay, so input module has different switches which take the parameter signals, and then it sends it to the logic module or the CPU after converting from analog to digital, because this conversion is required as the CPU needs only digital signals. Okay, and in the logic unit the required logic is processed and it is again output. Okay, so that is how these systems work. So it receives inputs analog or digital and also outputs analog or digital. Generally inputs are switches, normally open or normally closed, and outputs are in the form of a load, that is lamp, buzzer, motor, solenoids, etc. It uses a ladder programming which has a black box algorithm. Why it is called black box? Because a layman cannot understand what is written in the algorithm. That is why it is known as black box algorithm. The examples or the applications of PLCs are robot manufacturing, car parking, material handling, conveyor belts, signal systems, and there are many more applications. So coming to ladder logic or the programming, unlike conventional programming languages where you write different syntax for completing the program, PLCs use graphical representation of logic known as ladder diagram. Okay, so it is a pictorial representation of a program, unlike the common syntax used in different programming languages. So it is called soft-wired automation because it is flexible in nature. Okay, as you have seen earlier, it is called flexible because there is um, flexibility in programming possible in case of these programs, right? So that is why it is called as software automation. It has two vertical power rails and a series of horizontal rungs in between them. So the first power rail on the left side, it is 24 volts DC power rail, and on the right side you have 0 volts DC power rail. Okay, so it finds applications where sequential control of processes or manufacturing operations is involved. It can also be used for complex automation systems. On the left side of a ladder there are inputs, and on the right side outputs. The horizontal lines in the ladder are called rungs. Each rung is a line communicating the input and actuating the corresponding output. Okay, there could be many rungs in between two power rails. So on the left side, generally you have inputs in PLC ladder diagram, and on the right side you have outputs. There could be more than one input and there could be more than one output in each rung. So each rung is communicating you some inputs and some outputs. So this is how the PLCs work. Now let's go to the next slide. Timers and counters, these are additional features of PLCs. You have on delay timers. So I'm giving you some examples of on delay timers. Coolant and lubricant system of a machine tool. Okay, when you start a machine tool, what happens? Coolant and lubricant pump starts, and it starts delivering coolant and lubricant onto the machine tool or the spindle, and then actually the machining starts. So this is to take care of the proper machining and also maintaining the temperatures and lubrication of the system. And there are off delay timers. The example of this is engine cooling of a car. When you switch off the engine, okay, what happens? The engine stops, and then still the radiator fan and the pump are still running for some time, say 30 seconds or 1 minute. This is to take care of cooling of an engine which is heated after certain running. So this is known as off delay timers. And there are also counters, count up and count down, which can count above preset value and below preset value. So these are timers and counters. So now coming to approach to develop ladder logic. Now once you understood the different input elements, output elements, and now we can develop a ladder logic. So first thing is you should understand the task or the process properly. Given for a given automation process, you should know what is the first task, what is the last task. Identify the inputs and outputs then depending upon the process. Then tabulate the sequence in the form of a sequence table. We will see what is sequence table. Then draw a ladder diagram in which you are designing the logic. Okay, so this completes the pictorial representation of your logic. Then there could be modes, manual or auto in case of PLCs. So let us discuss this example. This is automatic capping operation. As you can see in the figure, there is a conveyor which is driven by a motor. Okay, and on this conveyor the cans are moving continuously. Okay, these cans need to be capped. Okay, so the sequence is like this. In the first step, conveyor motor starts, then can is detected by a photo sensor as shown in the figure. Then the motor stops, capping process starts for 100 seconds. There is a timer of 100 seconds, and after the process ends and the timer stops, there is a light and buzzer signal which tells you that the capping is done properly, and after that the motor starts again. Okay, and when the can moves ahead, there is a counter sensor which counts the cans. Okay, so after preset value is counted and finished, the motor stops and you can reset the PLC. Okay, so this is how the system works, and we have to design a logic for this. On the right side you can see there is a table of inputs and outputs. As you can see, there are only 3 inputs: start, stop buttons and photo sensor PS. Okay, and outputs, as you can see, a motor, capping operation, light, buzzer, timer and counter. and after that there is a reset. So for this problem we have to develop a PLC ladder diagram. So now we will see how it is to be developed or how it can be developed. Now this is a sequence table, as I mentioned you in the approach. One of the steps is to draw a sequence table in which you can clearly mention the discrete states of outputs uh, corresponding to the inputs or the steps. Okay, that is the feature of this sequence table. Here uh, the discrete states are mentioned with high and low signals, that is 1 and 0. Okay, so the step 1 is the motor starts. Okay, so we have start stop switch, and the output is only motor. Under the motor you can see 1, so that is the output available. And the step 2 you have motor has to stop because the photo sensor has sensed the CAN. Okay, so here start button is still showing on, but stop button is showing 0. So because generally the stop buttons are normally closed, and when you push that, it breaks the contact, so the motor will stop. Okay, and therefore that is on sensing the photo sensor. So under PS also you can see 1, and then now the operation starts here. Okay, the timer also starts. So this is the step number 2. In the step number 3, the motor is still stopped, that is the conveyor is still stopped, PS is still on, and you have light and buzzer. Okay, after the operation is complete you have light and buzzer. And the step 4, you have again start stop. Okay, so here the motor again starts. Okay, and then after light and buzzer, as the CAN moves ahead, you have count operation. The count sensor senses the quantity, and therefore under count you can see 1, that is high level is shown. And after that the motor stops again, because as you can see start is having high level but stop is 0, because it is normally closed switch, stop switch, and it is open now, so there is no current flowing, and the motor stops or the conveyor stops. So after this, after counting the preset quantity, you can again reset the PLC. So this is how the PLCs work, and the sequence table helps you to identify the steps and the discrete states of outputs. After this you can go for ladder diagram. So now this is your actual ladder diagram or the ladder logic required for this particular operation. So as you can see, on the left side there is 24 volts power rail, and on the right side you can see 0 volt power rail. Okay, so rung by rung we will just go on. As mentioned earlier, each rung communicates certain inputs and certain outputs. In the first rung, as you can see, there is start and stop switch. Okay, and there is central relay which is actuated by starting. Okay, by pushing the start switch, the central relay, or it is sometimes called internal relay, or sometimes also called master coil, so the main virtual output is actuated. Okay, so coming to next, and this also needs to be latched. As you can see, the central relay is latched here to have continuous output. Okay, otherwise what will happen when you push a start button and release it? So it is normally open switch, so what it does, it gives a momentary input, therefore there is a possibility that the motor may stop again. So to have continual operation of this, you need to latch the central relay. That is why in the first rung the central relay is latched, as you can see in the parallel line. Okay, now in the second rung central relay is on, and therefore the motor is on. Okay, now you know that when the photo sensor senses a CAN, the motor has to stop, correct, for operation. So what is the logic required here? When the central relay is on, when the photo sensor is not true and the timer is off, in that case the motor should run. Okay, that is the logic we are applying here. Okay, when the motor should run or the conveyor should run when photo sensor is not true and the timer is off, that means the process is complete, therefore the motor can run. Okay, coming to the next rung, when the central relay is on and the photo sensor is also on, the operation starts for 100 seconds. That is why the timer is also shown there. So here the outputs are capping operation and the timer. Okay. In the next run, when the timer is off but still the photosensor is on, okay, at that time there is a light and buzzer going on, indicating that the process is complete. Okay. So after the light and buzzer, and as we know, when the photosensor and timer are not true, the motor again starts and it proceeds ahead, the can proceeds ahead, and it is counted by the counter. Okay. And after preset values of cans are counted, and the batch is complete, the motor will stop or the PLC will stop, and it needs to be reset. So that is why the last run you have the reset function also. So this is how the logic works. So I think with this you must have had a fair idea of how the PLCs work. So I think that's all in this lecture. Thank you. Thank you for patient listening.